I need something. It is a size 7.
Holmes!
Good day, Lestrade. Your haste deserves comment. One could say that you were right to hurry here, as this case is one of great complexity and challenge. Do not worry. I think that you will manage to get back to your mother before the dinner hour.
In the name of devil, Holmes, you go too far. Do you spy on me now? How do you know I've been to my mother's?
Dear Lestrade, it is really quite simple. I must admit my mind has been stimulated by the main course, which would be this unique case. However, I sometimes enjoy a light snack of the details which surround it. Observe, we are in the middle of the countryside, and you have some fresh yellow pollen, but only on your right sleeve. This implies a recent gift of flowers. It is a gallant gesture, but surely a meeting with the fairer of our species would take place in London. Considering the promptness of your arrival, it must have been a bouquet of flowers you took to someone who lives in this area. I presume that you have family living nearby, and I would think only your mother would warrant such an attentive gesture. There is a fresh dab of fat at the corner of your mouth, as well as on the bit of handkerchief visible from your pocket. This is consistent with a recent meal of a big piece of steak. Who would make a policeman swallow such a substantial meal at this hour, and when a crime has been just committed? It could only be a mother thinking about the hard task awaiting her child.
Well, Holmes, when you explain it like that, it really seems quite simple. Good show. What about this Bromsby murder?
A unique case, as I've already noted, but any supposition would be premature until we consider Dr. Watson's report, as well as your own findings. Miss Lavinia has asked that the esteemed Dr. Watson and I give this case our full attention, though I doubt she is aware of all the implications of this case. Lestrade, you can find the victim inside, and I recommend calling upon his solicitor, Mr. Horace Fowlett. Mrs. Hudson is cooking a roast tomorrow at noon. Why don't you be our guest, and we can share our discoveries? What do you think? Watson and I must take our leave, as there is much to be done at Baker Street. Are you coming, Watson? Let us return to Baker Street. Everything is well noted. Watson, bravo. All of these elements will be a great help to us. As for myself, I have already told you everything that I know, and I can tell you nothing more until I receive answers to the messages I've sent with Wiggins. Now I must return to my experiments to test my theory regarding the substance I found at the scene of the murder. Meanwhile, I suggest you look through the books in the bookcase. Information that you find there might prove very useful in resolving this case.
I have to check 3 books on the shelves. Let's see. Here is information which could be really helpful in our investigation. These Chirapaki cigarettes come from Brazil, and they seem to contain narcotic substances. What might they be?
I need to analyze the evidence found at Sherringford Hall. A piece of white cloth, a small box, various powders, and finally the hair. Let's get to work. I need to analyze the evidence found at Sherringford Hall. A piece of white cloth, a small box, various powders, and finally the hair. Let's get to work. To analyze the nature of these stains, I must first soak the cloth in a solution of soap and water. Now I shall place this cloth in the solvent. Now I shall place this cloth in the solvent. The stains are sticky, but not very oily. Let's examine it under the microscope. A light feminine perfume. Let's examine it under the microscope. A man's hair. What would be the reaction if I heated this powder? Burnt gunpowder. Let's examine it under the microscope. Let's examine it under the microscope. Let's examine it under the microscope. Let me study this more closely. Let me study this more closely. Let me study this more closely. A box containing some white powder. Let's examine it. These powders are similar. I can see it from the grains. What would be the reaction if I heated this powder? It has no effect. Let's mix some water with this powder, a glue or pasty substance, like starch. Let's examine it under the microscope. A very fine white cotton. It seems to me that we have gathered all of the key elements, Watson. However, before we retire, let's summarize our findings. The questions should be answered yes or no and justified by the evidence or testimony received during the investigation. It is simplicity itself, Watson. We have answered all the questions. My dear Lestrade, I congratulate you on the precise quality of your notes. It is true that you have missed everything of importance, but you have spared me the trouble of eliminating the trifles and pointed me in the right direction. I hear familiar steps on the stairs. Please be seated, Watson. You must be famished. Lestrade was kind enough to bring a copy of his notes, hoping it would be of assistance in this affair.
Indeed.
You can study them now and enjoy your meal. Please take your time, Watson, because bad digestion weakens our ability to reason.
Holmes, you will get no argument from me, as this dish is delicious.
We will go to Sherringford Hall with Lestrade when you're finished with your meal.
I must read the documents Holmes gave me. All this is very interesting. According to the evidence, it seems that the shooter was not in the ballroom or the corridor. Where was he then?
Are you finished, Watson? Shall we go? Let us return to Sherringford Hall. Cabby!
Sirs, please, go right in. Please wait here, gentlemen. I will see if Miss Lavinia is receiving callers. She's in her room.